Welcome back to the SnackWalls podcast. I'm Mike Roberts, your host, and we're here to talk about increasing and maintaining diversity in tech beyond the perks. While companies think they can lure people in with unlimited PTO and dogs in the office, we're here to talk about how you keep them. All right, I'm going to throw it over to my special guest today. Can you tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My name is Olin Hyde. I'm the co-founder and CEO of LeadCrunch. LeadCrunch is an artificial intelligence platform for business-to-business marketing. We find the ideal audience of prospects for any business, and then we engage each one of those prospects with content marketing to start them on the journey to becoming a customer. And we perform better than other forms of demand generation because, unlike our competitors, our artificial intelligence understands how companies fit into each other's supply chain. So underneath the hood is really a representational model of the economy. So we can answer the question of, if you're selling to Apple, what industry is Apple in? Are they a retailer? Are they a phone company? Are they a software company? Because Apple's all of those and a lot more, but the way you would sell into Apple is very specific to your unique differentiation, and we can tell you who to sell to inside of Apple and how to approach them.
Sounds like magic to me, but I'm sure there's a lot of tech that goes into making that happen. So that, I think, will be good lived experience for our conversation today. So let's just kick it off. I'm hearing from a few leaders in tech that finding diverse talent is a challenge. What are your thoughts?
I think you could just say finding talent is a challenge. The more requirements you put on that, the harder it gets. Certainly finding diverse talent is more challenging than finding talent. To give you an idea how big the problem is, we're an analytics company. Everything's driven off of math. It takes us more than 1,000 resumes to get to one hire. For engineers, which are a particularly easy set of people to evaluate, only 1 out of 70 people that take our code test pass. Let me repeat that. Less than 2% of people that take our code test pass. So when you start saying, okay, let's find black engineers, or let's say find people people of color to take the code. It's, whoa, hold on, pal. Let's find people that can pass the test. And so it really changes the way we search for people. How do you find the best people that can take the test and do that in a way that it is not biased towards any particular group? Because obviously, from our perspective, the best performing teams are diverse in 2 dimensions. Intrinsically, how we're born. You were born a black man, I was born a white man. So we look at the world differently just as the nature of our intrinsic differences. But more importantly is our extrinsic differences, the life choices that we've made that have brought us to who we are. And our company strives to get diversity in both dimensions, both intrinsic and extrinsic. And most importantly, we're looking for the top talent, the top 2% of talent in any respective field. And so we've done all kinds of things to try to do that, like strip names off of resumes before they're evaluated, so there's no bias towards someone's name. And we've tried all kinds of things, and I think we've been successful in some areas, and we're still learning on others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that continuum, right, of making some experimentation that could lead you to a better and refine a better and better process to get to where you ultimately want to get, which is what you described. You want to have that diversity of thought within your organization, an inclusive organization, all those things that I think, all value in terms of having the anti-toxic workplace. That's another way to describe it, right? You want to be the opposite of a toxic place that people want to stay away from and avoid. Right.
Well, I'm a competitive guy, so I'm okay if my competitors want to have a monolithic, non-diverse environment, because I'm going to beat the hell out of them when I have a diverse team. Diverse teams tend to outperform non-diverse teams.
Absolutely. So on that, a lot of organizations, or at least some, are pushing to remove the requirement for CS degrees for software engineering roles. What are your thoughts about that?
We're way ahead of that. We don't have a CS requirement. Interesting story is about that code test for engineers. We had a woman apply that had a PhD in computer science and a woman who was a school teacher that went to a 14-week code academy. Guess who passed the code test?
Well, I know, because I've been in the boot camp space for 5 years.
Boot camp person won. And so, I think if you look at our team, about half of the team have fancy degrees and about half the team don't. In fact, 2 of our more senior people are college dropouts. But who cares? You look at their GitHub repository and they're awesome.
Right. It's really about what can you do, and not, a credential or pedigree. Do you bring the skills to the table that you need at LeadCrunch to get the job done? Studies show that about 70% of job performance are things that are not on the resume. They're cognitive behavioral traits, like how much grit and determination do you have? What's your will to win? What's your ability to work within a team? These are far more important. You're not going to pick that up off of a resume, or if you go to a fancy school or not. And I'm still struggling with that. I know Angela Duckworth's done a lot of work in that, like grittiness and that grit.
Yep.
If I could distill that down into a magic quiz, like the grittiness quiz, I think that's 90% of what we use to screen who we think is going to be successful in our programs. So is that any part of your intake process, is to determine the grittiness of candidates?
Absolutely. We shamelessly steal a lot of ideas from Angela Duckworth. A book that I recommend all hiring managers to read is Who, by 2 guys named Street and Smart. And we scorecard everybody. So we're looking for cognitive behavioral attributes that can be the test. For instance, one of our questions would be, tell us a story about a time that you overcame a very difficult hardship, something you're comfortable sharing, either personal or professional. And what we're looking for is it a real, authentic hardship. What we don't want to hear is, how hard it was to pass your chemistry exam, and whether you have an internal locus of control or not.
Sure.
Do you feel that you have some influence can you control your outcomes? And that's really important, because people that don't have that tend to have a victim mentality. And that's just absolutely toxic to a high-performing organization.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the screening process. What about apprenticeships? Do you think the apprenticeship pattern would work to prepare people for technical roles?
We had some terrible tragedies earlier this year that gave rise to a resurgence in the Black Lives Matter movement. And a good friend of mine is a leader in the Black community, a person who'd run for Congress several times. And I reached out to him and said, what can I do that's meaningful to help this? And he said, teach, mentor. And I thought that was a really powerful statement, because I've always had mentees, and I really love teaching. I teach at a lot of the schools, guest lecturing and so forth. And I think that apprenticeships have a place. They are not a solution in of themselves. So to become a skilled engineer, it takes decades. It doesn't happen in 14 weeks. That woman who beat the PhD in computer science, the reason she beat her is she thought about the problems differently and was actually able to get to a more interesting set of questions. Now, that didn't happen because she went to 14 weeks of Code Academy. What that reflected is she had 20 some years of thinking differently.
Sure.
And I think that when we look at how do we get people of color into these positions, it's first, we need leaders, right? It doesn't happen by just saying, okay, we're going to have some kind of quota system. That won't work. What does work is mentorship, teaching, and nurturing people into the positions where they can become leaders and they can actually become productive. So I think apprenticeship works with a lot of guardrails to make sure it doesn't go off the rails. So,
Sure.
For instance, we've had interns that were highly successful in some roles. In fact, I've had chiefs of staff that started off as interns, and that's a pretty big promotion. We've also had a data science person start off as an intern. We've had a lot of interns fail because they just didn't have the groundwork done. So I think that in apprenticeships don't replace groundwork.
Yeah, absolutely. And so truly the same philosophy, I think, applies in many cases. If you don't come ready, you don't practice the way you're going to play, it's going to be tough for you to be able to be successful. But given the opportunity, I agree. I think it's a great way to give people more hands-on reps doing the type of work that they're going to be expected to do when they're on their own. So,
right, absolutely.
What about what advice would you share with organizations? Now they've done a good job of attracting talent. How do you retain diverse talent?
Well, I think one of the most important things about a workplace is that it also has a social element. We're here as a team to win. The mission is more important than anything. But one of the things we do is we incentivize people to recruit their friends. And if you recruit your friends, you're more likely to stay in the organization, and you're more likely to recruit people that you want to hang out with. Now, if you're recruiting the right people that are challenging themselves to be the best in the world at whatever they do, those people tend to have more diverse sets of friends. It's less monolithic.
Sure.
I think that if you think about how to retain a diverse staff, it's the same answer as how do you retain a top performing staff. And that is, you make the workplace a place where it can be the most valuable stepping stone in your career. And that's what we like to say a lot. And that's the promise that we make to our employees, that LeadCrunch will be the most valuable stepping stone in your career. And sometimes those words come back to haunt us when we make a mistake.
It's tall order.
Tall order. But, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
This is true. And, there's always that chance that you'll fail forward too. And you will then get better and iterative process like anything else. So
absolutely. Who
is someone like yourself that you think is a leader that you'd like to acknowledge and might be a good guest on a podcast like this?
Yeah, I think that, there's a gentleman in my industry, Jeremy Bloom. He's one of I think he's been in the Olympics twice. I think he's the only person to win an Olympic medal and a Super Bowl ring, a Winter Olympic medal and a Super Bowl ring. I think he's a good person. I think that this is a subject that he's done a pretty good job of attracting and retaining great talent. And he's both, we're a customer, competitor, and collaborator. So we have the industry all kind of work in a bunch of different ways together.
Nice. All right. So he's on the radar. Be nice to have an Olympian on the show. I don't think I've had many Olympians yet. So,
well, I think Jeremy's done a remarkable job with his podcast, and I hope he sees this and says, yeah, I want to be on that show.
Awesome. So where can we find out more information about LeadCrunch?
LeadCrunch.com or LeadCrunch.ai takes you to the same place. And really what we do is generate demand for enterprises, specifically business-to-business software enterprises. We work really well for companies that have sales automation, such as Salesforce, and marketing automation, things like HubSpot and Marketo. People that know content marketing and have established nurturing programs. Those are really great customers for us. We don't work so well for early stage startups simply because they don't have enough horsepower to do to take this rocket fuel that we're providing and put it in an engine that will get them to go. But our product should come with a warning label. People that buy our product come back and buy a lot more of it every next quarter. So our net retention, or how we measure it's coming back, is very high, and we really strive to make our customers winners.
That's great. I mean, that's everything you want to hear when you're thinking about a service provider, that you're going to be addicted to the product. So I
think addiction is one thing. I love the metaphor, but in reality, what we're really doing is we're measuring our success by our customer success. We're only successful if our customers are winning. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. So last question, and the most important. This is a tough one. What are you snacking on lately? What's your favorite snack?
I have lost 20 pounds June. So I have been snacking on healthy things like
nice.
So I've been doing the intermittent fasting, and I love coffee. I'm married to Puerto Rican, so it's in her blood. And I would say my favorite snack these days are a bowl of yogurt and fresh fruit.
Nice. See, I like the healthy ones too, because you get your energy level up. Sometimes you get that sugar rush, it's gone, and then you fall flat. So getting some healthy snacks, always a smart move. So.
Absolutely. Just make sure you have the snacks in your eating window. Don't snack all the time.
It's true. It's got to be
8 hours a day. During 8 hours.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Olin, for coming on the program. Really appreciate your thought.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Mike.
The San Diego Code School is a proud sponsor of the SnackWalls podcast. The San Diego Code School is leading companies to tech equity. The tech-enabled apprenticeship program is a venture whose heart is to do a lot of social good and do good work. You can help San Diego Code School secure funding for change by hiring developers, bringing a team in to relieve your backlog, or becoming a program sponsor. You can visit us on the web for more information at http:// STCS